Have you ever wondered why the people you love most sometimes leave right before your breakthrough? Aarav never thought he'd have to ask himself that question. For years, he and his best friend, Rishi, were inseparable. The halves of the same dream, pushing each other to study harder, laugh louder, and reach higher. They had planned everything together: late-night study sessions, college applications, even the celebration party, for when they finally got accepted into their dream university. But on the eve of their biggest exam, Rishi's messages stopped coming. Aarav waited, staring at his phone, convinced it was just a misunderstanding. But the silence stretched on. The next morning, Rishi was gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just an empty seat where his friend used to be. Aarav's world tilted. How could someone so important vanish at the very moment everything was about to change? The questions swirled in his mind, heavy and unanswerable. Was it something he said? Did he do something wrong? Or was this just how life worked, removing people right before the blessing arrived? Aarav was left with nothing but uncertainty and a heart full of questions. Just days before, Aarav's life had been filled with laughter echoing through the corridors, inside jokes scribbled in the margins of textbooks, and the comforting certainty that someone always had his back. He and Rishi had built a world together, one where every challenge felt lighter because they faced it side by side. Aarav could still remember the warmth of their last conversation, the way Rishi had clapped him on the shoulder and promised, "We've got this, no matter what." Now, that warmth was replaced by a chilling emptiness. The seat beside him in class felt colder, the silence heavier. Every time Aarav reached for his phone, hoping for a message, he was met with nothing but a blank screen. The absence was everywhere: in the cafeteria, where they used to share meals, in the library where they'd whisper answers to each other, even in the walk home that now felt endless and lonely. Confusion gnawed at Aarav. He replayed every recent moment, searching for a clue, a sign, anything that could explain why Rishi had left so suddenly. Was it something he'd missed? Had he failed as a friend? The questions became a constant hum in his mind, feeding a growing sense of self-doubt. He wondered if he was somehow unworthy of loyalty, if he was destined to be left behind, just when he needed someone most. The world that once felt so full now seemed hollow, and Aarav was left wandering through the ruins, trying to make sense of what remained. Why does this always happen to me? The thought echoed in Aarav's mind, louder with each passing day. He stared at the ceiling late at night, replaying every conversation, every shared secret, every moment that might have gone wrong. Was there something he missed? A word, a gesture, a mistake he couldn't see? He wondered if he was cursed, if fate or God had singled him out for disappointment just when he needed hope the most. Aarav's mind became a storm of questions. Why did Rishi leave without a word? Why now, when everything was on the line? He scrolled through old messages, searching for hidden meanings, desperate for a clue. Each unanswered question felt like a weight, pressing down on his chest. Maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe he was too much, or not enough, or simply the kind of person people left behind. He looked at others' friends laughing in the hallway, classmates celebrating small victories, and felt a pang of envy. Why did their lives seem so easy? so untouched by sudden loss. Aarav couldn't shake the feeling that he was alone in his pain, left behind by both his friend and by fate itself. Days blurred into weeks, and Aarav found himself drifting through life like a ghost. Surrounded by classmates, he felt more alone than ever. In the cafeteria, laughter bubbled around him, but it sounded distant, muffled, as if he were underwater. He watched friends huddle over shared secrets, groups planning outings, and students celebrating exam results. Everyone else seemed to have it all together. Why am I left behind? The question haunted him. Aarav's world had stopped, but life around him kept moving. He saw Rishi's old friends making new memories, filling the void, as if nothing had changed. Teachers handed out assignments, deadlines approached, and the campus buzzed with anticipation for the future. Aarav, meanwhile, felt stuck in place, unable to move forward or even look ahead. He went through the motions, attending classes, taking notes, pretending to listen, but inside, he was numb. He tried to reach out, but every conversation felt forced, every smile a mask. The more he tried to fit in, the more isolated he felt. It was as if an invisible wall separated him from the rest of the world. Aarav wondered if anyone noticed his absence, or if he had simply faded into the background, forgotten by everyone except himself. One afternoon, as Aarav sat alone in the library, lost in thought, his literature teacher, Mrs. Kapoor, quietly took the seat beside him. She had always noticed the subtle changes in her students, the way their eyes lost their spark, the heaviness in their voices. She didn't ask what was wrong. Instead, she began to share a story. "When I was your age," she said softly, "I had a friend who meant the world to me. We did everything together, but one day she moved away and I felt abandoned. For a long time, I couldn't understand why life would take her from me. I thought I'd never recover from that loss." Aarav listened, surprised by the gentle understanding in her words. Mrs. Kapoor continued, "My grandmother used to tend a rose garden. Every year, she would prune the branches, cutting away what seemed healthy. I asked her why she would hurt the plants like that. She smiled and said, 'Sometimes you have to remove what you love to make room for new growth.'" Her story lingered in the air, a quiet comfort. For the first time in weeks, Aarav felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a reason for his pain, a purpose he couldn't yet see. Mrs. Kapoor's eyes softened as she continued, her voice weaving the lesson into Aarav's heart. "You see, Aarav, when my grandmother pruned her roses, it always looked harsh at first. The branches she cut away were green and full of life. I used to think she was making a mistake, that she was hurting the plant. But she knew something I didn't. She understood that if you let every branch grow wild, the plant would become tangled and weak. It would waste its energy on too many directions, and the flowers would never reach their full beauty." She paused, letting the image settle in Aarav's mind. It's the same with us. Sometimes God or life or fate removes people from our lives, even those we care about deeply. It feels painful, even cruel, like losing a part of ourselves. But what if that loss is actually making space for something better? What if it's preparing us to bloom in ways we never imagined? Aarav pictured the rose bush, bare and wounded after the pruning, and then remembered how, weeks later, it would burst into color, more vibrant than before. The pain of losing Rishi still ached, but Mrs. Kapoor's words planted a seed of understanding. Maybe this emptiness wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something new. A chance to grow stronger, to discover parts of himself that had been hidden in the shadow of old branches. The thought was both terrifying and strangely comforting. In the days that followed, Mrs. Kapoor's story echoed in Aarav's mind. He still missed Rishi, but the ache was softer now, edged with a quiet understanding. Instead of fighting the emptiness, Aarav began to fill it with new things. He dusted off his old sketchbook, letting his pencil dance across the pages, rediscovering a love for drawing that he'd set aside. He joined a campus club he'd always been curious about, but never dared to try, meeting people who shared his interests and challenged his thinking. Each small step felt like a victory, a sign that he could move forward, even if it was just a little at a time. Aarav started to notice changes in himself. He was more independent, more willing to take risks, and more open to new experiences. The world, which had once seemed gray and empty, began to show hints of color again. He realized that growth didn't mean forgetting the past or pretending the pain never happened. It meant honoring what was lost while making space for what could be. With every new day, Aarav felt a little stronger, a little more hopeful, and a little more ready for whatever blessing might be waiting just around the corner. One crisp morning, as Aarav was sketching in the campus courtyard, a professor noticed his artwork and struck up a conversation. Impressed by Aarav's talent and passion, she encouraged him to apply for a prestigious art scholarship that was closing its applications that very week. Aarav hesitated at first, doubting whether he was good enough, but something inside him urged him to try. He poured his heart into his portfolio and submitted it just in time. A few weeks later, Aarav received the news. He had been awarded the scholarship. The opportunity came with a chance to study abroad, meet other young artists, and showcase his work in a gallery, experiences he had never even dreamed of before. As he stood in the gallery on opening night, surrounded by new friends and mentors, Aarav realized how much his life had changed. He thought back to the days when he felt stuck, unable to move forward, and understood that if he had clung to the past, he would have missed this blessing entirely. The loss that once felt like an ending had become the doorway to a new beginning. Old limitations had given way to new possibilities, and Aarav was finally ready to embrace them. Standing in the glow of his achievements, Aarav took a quiet moment to look back on his journey. The pain of Rishi's sudden departure no longer felt like a wound, but a turning point, a necessary chapter that shaped who he had become. He realized that if he hadn't faced that emptiness, he might never have discovered his own strength or reignited his passion for art. The loneliness that once seemed unbearable had taught him resilience, independence, and the courage to step into the unknown. Aarav felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the blessings he had received, but for the struggles that made them possible. He understood now that every loss, every unanswered question, had been a part of a bigger plan. With this new perspective, Aarav felt at peace. ready to carry the wisdom of his journey forward and share it with others who might be walking a similar path. If you've ever felt abandoned or left behind just when you needed someone most, know that you're not alone. Aarav's story is a reminder that everyone faces moments of loss and confusion. Times when it feels like life is taking more than it gives. But sometimes, what feels like an ending is really the beginning of something greater. The people who leave, the doors that close, the setbacks that sting, they might all be part of a bigger plan shaping you for blessings you can't yet see. Trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. Have faith that your journey is unfolding exactly as it should, and that every challenge is preparing you for growth. Be patient with yourself and with life. The pain you feel today could be clearing the way for tomorrow's joy. Hold on to hope, and remember, your story isn't over yet. Don't miss out on the blessings waiting for you sometimes. Letting go is the first step towards something extraordinary. If you're holding on to pain, regret, or relationships that no longer serve your growth, trust that a higher plan is at work. Embrace change, even when it feels uncomfortable, and stay open to the new opportunities life brings your way. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner. If Aarav's story resonated with you, share your own journey in the comments below. You never know who might need to hear your words of hope and encouragement today.